Hi everybody, I'm Drew. I've been to a lot of these Ruby meetup things, but like I just said, haven't talked at one before. So yeah, thanks heaps for being here. I'm not going to argue with whether Ruby works or not. It's awesome. In fact, I'm just going to talk about arguments. We'll get to that. It's Ruby Newbies, but my first confession is that since I signed up for this talk, I'm actually not a Ruby developer. I went off and worked at a place called MyExplore. We work in childcare. It's awesome. But the main code base that I'm working with is Phoenix. And those of you who know Phoenix know it's actually Elixir. So I'm actually Elixir dev. And I know most people sometimes tend to look at Elixir devs a little bit like this. But it's okay. I love Ruby very much. It was my first love, and I'm never going to leave you. Please, baby, I love you. So Ruby Newbies, yay, we're here. Why am I here? I'm here because when I was first looking at doing this talk, I was applying for jobs. I was just finishing my boot camp about midway through last year, and I was looking at getting my first position. So I was thinking, oh, okay, cool. I need to go from the hobby projects, and I need to, like, the professionals are going to be reading these code tests, and I need to write, professional code. That's what I need to do. What does professional code look like? Then I realized very quickly that that's a silly question to ask, that writing professional code, look, you can ask 20 different professionals and you'll get 20 different answers, and they're all very valid. The three that I sort of got that kind of stuck around was you want your code to be readable, you want your code to be clean, and generally like self-documenting is a good one. So I started to ask this question instead. It's just one of many questions. I had a lot of questions, but this is the one I weighed in on. So this is where the talk's sitting at. It's mostly for those of you who have sort of done a boot camp, maybe looking to break out into things and you're looking to go that little bit deeper without having to break into the Rails code base too much. And we're going to use pirates. Because we're talking about arguments, and what do pirates love more than args? Cool. So look at that. We're going to weigh anchor. We're going to hoist the mainsails. We're going to start our first code block. This is a pirate greeting. It's probably similar to hello world or something like that. It's just doing something simple. It takes an argument, a single positional argument, we'll discover. It puts it inside of a string and upcases it because no self-respecting pirate is going to say anything at normal volume. And then when you call that pirate greeting, we get our shouted ahoy there pirate greeting. Great. That's a positional argument. So that's the basic type of argument. With positional arguments, we've all worked with them. They're a staple with, all of us have worked in code, have tended to work with them. They're a staple in most / all programming languages. And they're defined by a number of them. The number of them means something, and the order that they are passed in means something. So if we have a class pirate and we define a say method, and we have our 3 arguments placed into a puts there, again, we wrap them into a string, we upcase them like all good pirates would. In this case, we can create a totally normal pirate, get our totally normal pirate to say 3 totally normal pirate things, and surely enough, that will work. And what can we take away from that? We can take away from positional args that the positions of the arguments matter. And then the number of the arguments matter. The position of the arguments matters. If you move them, you change what you put in when you call it in different orders, it's going to do different things. The number of the arguments matters. You change the number of things that you put into that method, it's going to error. These are good things because if we don't have people using things the way that we want them to, then the code will break. And that's actually a good thing because we don't want broken things happening. But what if we need to place any number of arguments, any number of items into an argument? What if we've got more than 3 or 2, or we don't know how many? What if we're querying a database and we're getting back any number? The answer might be to pass them in as an array. So you could take one array, one single positional argument, could wrap any number of items inside of that array, and you can pass that through. That's pretty cool. Ruby's got some cool stuff when you start to do this. The first one is the splat operator. And the star args, which really confused me when I first looked into code bases that had this star args. What it does is it takes all the arguments that you place into your method and it automatically sort of transfers them into an array for you. Let's see how that works. So the splat operator goes, once again, we call our pirate. This time we have our little star in front of our argument. And that denotes that it's going to be a splat operator. So any number of arguments from here are going to be wrapped up. So we work on that as if it's an array. So in this piece, we've got a full sentence that we're going to create. So we have a phrases map that we know is an array. We map over each phrase. We take each phrase, we put an exclamation mark and we upcase it. And then we go, ahoy there, full sentence join, arg. So in this case, we can get our smart pirate. And smart pirate can put in as many arguments as they like. Ahoy, passed in all the args, however you done well, please. And surely enough, that will work as well. That's cool. The caveats from this, it's great for unknown quantities of items, but it's not so great maybe with clarity. Like if star args can mean a lot of things. I don't really know what they are. And it's not so great when you're dealing with different types of data. If you've got different types of things, you want arrays to be like-minded kinds of things. Hashes. That's where you can pass in hashes, things as a hash. So you can take a key and a value pair, wrap those into lots of different arrays, items into a hash, and you could pass that hash in, and then you could pull the different keys out, and you can work with that. A lot of people will do that. And if we've got the splat operator, this is probably my favorite Rubyism. It's the double splat operator, of course. So the double splat operator comes in to save the day here, and it automatically transforms all the arguments into a hash. I don't see this one used as often, but it's kind of interesting. It's got the star instead of star, so 2 stars, double splat. And in this case, we have a pirate. And this time we're going to initialize our pirate with a pirate args hash. We're going to start it off by defining 3 attributes that this pirate is going to have. And we work on it as if it's a hash. So this time the pirate args, we're extracting out the key name, vessel, and fearsome quote. When we create our new pirate here, kim.com, we can create this one with, you'll notice when you're calling it, there's actually just 3, this looks a bit complicated, but there's actually 3 arguments there. There's name, kim.com, that's a key value pair. Vessel, megaroblock.com, that's a key value pair. And then fearsome quote, I'm not a pirate, I'm an innovator. Those 3 are actually they're just 3 different arguments, there's no array, there's no hash brackets around that. That's kind of cool, and that will work. Hooray! So that's interesting. Really all I've kind of worked us through is how to pass things in through as arrays and hashes. So, and that's not, it's pretty cool, but it's given us a Ruby thing. But where I really wanted to get with this is the whole reason for this talk, was that Ruby keyword arguments, which I think is the holy grail of keyword method arguments that I've found. And this kind of made me go a little bit when I found out about it. So this time, call in initialize function method here. Ruby and Elixir functions methods. And this time we call it with our 3 arguments as if it's positional arguments, but the difference being we have a colon after each, and that denotes that they're actually keys. So this is going to do something different. In this case, we have our 3 attributes, which we now assign. You'll notice that we haven't had to pull our keys out of any hashes. Ruby's gone, oh, cool, these are keyword arguments. I'm gonna take what you put in under those keys, and I'm gonna automatically create a nice variable for us. When we create our next pirate, the greatest pirate of all time, by the way, Captain Feathersword. And I'm not going to say the quote because somebody would make me fall over on stage. It's not going to, well, maybe. In this case, we can call them exactly the same way as we called kim.com before. No fancy hashes around that. That's just 3 key value pair arguments. And amazingly, that will also work. And that's really cool because the big thing you get from this is not only are the people who are calling your methods now able to see exactly what they're assigning these arguments to, but the person who's looking at the method definition itself can look at that first line and immediately get some context as to what's happening here. And this is where it starts to be really self-documenting. And I was just like, so that is so cool. So yeah, and some of the caveats that I meant to switch this around. You can actually call them in any order. So we could call the fearsome quote before we call the name. But if you forget to call one of these predefined keys, it's going to tell us that we're missing a keyword. But it does have something to get us out of that problem. Name, if we put the vessel in as a landlubber with a default, it's going to say that if you don't specify a vessel, that we'll figure you out. And in this case, with our final pirate for the night, we will say that if we don't specify whilst Guybrush Threepwood is fighting like a dairy farmer. If we don't specify that he has a vessel, then he'll be ousted as a filthy, filthy landlubber. And that's how we can deal with those. So yeah, that's cool. Bring it all together. Keyword operators can really help to clarify method calls and the definitions that they're actually written in as well. So calculate total here, if you're writing it with regular positional arguments, tells you something, but you don't really know what all those numbers mean. Refactor that with keyword arguments, and suddenly we've got a bit more context as to what we're doing there. Even without seeing the actual code inside of that method, I can probably figure out what I'm doing. Sometimes simple naming can clarify code. We all know this, but with the star args, this one's just a bugbear of mine when I'm looking at things. Star args is just a bit like, oh, I hicked up the joke. Oh no. Star args is just, anyway, it was Fozzie Bear saying star args. Move slower, Drew. Anyway, there we go. We'll get there. There we go. Yay. Careful with automatic builds on slides. That's your takeaway. So yeah, star args, you can look at it and it's sort of a bit like, well, what are the args? If you were to rename that to something like record, now we at least know, okay, we're processing a number of records. Understanding method arguments can kind of start to explain a bit how Rails looks a bit like Rails, especially when you take away the brackets. You can now see that the validates method is just a method that takes in a password argument as the first positional argument, and then it takes in a number of key value pairs after that. This was something that really confused me as I was a junior starting out. I was like, how does it just look like a sentence? How is that code? It's code. Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, thanks very much, everybody. I'll see you down at the pub. I mean, I mostly write Elixir, but you can ask me questions if you want.
Do we have questions? Cool.
Are keyword arguments optional or are they required?
The keyword arguments, if you don't specify the default in the initial call, it will. If we look at something like, if you did that and then you didn't specify the vessel, it's going to come through and crash out on us with a missing keyword. However, you can solve that quite easily by putting in a default into the line right there, and that will help. Cool. Hello, Michael.
I suppose, great talk.
Yep.
I love the pirate theme. That's good. I think you should have done more args.
I should have. Yeah, I'll write that down next time. More args.
More of an observation, but it kind of made me feel like, oh, you're going to go straight into static typing. Like the way you built it up, it's like, oh, just args, just having this kind of random stuff. That's not good. But if I give it names, and then when you gave the example with the tax stuff, and it's like, well, then you could say, well, you could then have static typing on the tax because the tax can't be more than 100% or something like that. I don't know if, again, more of an observation, but it's kind of interesting, and I know that static typing may be there for Ruby at some stage. I don't know if you've got any thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I'm now writing in a functional programming language, and that slippery slope towards more and more like locking down is very, very tempting every day. But I didn't want to rock the boat. Thank you.
Who do you feel is the most underrated pirate?
I think Guybrush is up there. Like, he's like, he's got some darn good insults. I don't know if you've played that game, Monkey Island, but far out. The dairy farmer one goes, but man, some of them get really good. I'm going to go with that. Tess came up with Kim.com. That was gold. Yeah, that's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Drew. No.